All right, so we're going to finish things off here about interest and compound interest by talking about inflation. So, most of you probably have some idea of what inflation is, right? Inflation has to do with the rising cost of living, let's just say, right? It can be rent, it can be groceries, it can be eating out at restaurants. Basically, the price of things has risen over like the entire history of the human race, right? And what that means is that $1 million 100 years ago was had a lot more purchasing power than $1 million does today. And so, if you look at the rate that inflation has been happening over the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, and you know the percentage, then what you can say is, okay, I have an investment that I'm starting today. And let's say that investment in this situation 4.8% and inflation is 2.7%. So you're getting a percentage on your money, but you're losing the purchasing power of the money that you're putting in. And there's a really easy formula for being able to find the real rate of return. So the real rate of return, or I'm going to call it the RRR, is just your investment percentage. So investment percentage minus the inflation percentage. So maybe we call it R because we use R a lot for the investment percentage. So your R percent minus the inflation percent. And that's the real rate of return you're getting back on your money. So if you put $10,000 in today and you get 5% on that money, let's say, and the rate of inflation is 2%, you're really getting 3%. Right, that's the purchasing power of the money that you're actually getting back. So it's pretty easy. So if your investment is 4.8% and the rate of inflation is 2.7%, you're really getting 2.1%. That's the percent of like the value of your money will be whenever you take it out, right? And it doesn't matter how long it's in there. As long as the inflation rate is steady, is constant, that is the actual rate of return you're getting. So the lesson here, the lesson is to make sure your investments, your investments must outpace inflation. Right? You have to do better with your investments than inflation. And there are some investments out there that only pay like, 0.5% or 1%. Lots of banks don't have anything great anymore, which is why playing the stock market is what a lot of people do, because you have to beat the bank rate, right? Because if you are not investing your money at all, if you're just saving it in a jar, you are losing money by doing that because the inflation rate is going to outpace you. So unless you're spending all your money right away, you need to be investing it somewhere where you're outpacing inflation. So we got Jacob here investing $3,200 in an index fund, which he predicts will earn 7.2% per year compounded annually. Great index funds out there. An index fund has a piece of every stock, and it has different percentages of different stocks. It tries to have higher percentages of better performing stocks. But if you are interested in investing in index funds, let me know. I can help you out and get you started. But anyway, so he thinks it's going to make 7.2% per year, and the last 10 years they've been hitting like 8, which is pretty good. So compounded annually for 8 years. The inflation is predicted to be 3.1% over that time. Calculate the real value of the investment after 8 years. So the real rate of return is going to be 7.2 minus 3.1, which is what, 4.1%. And 3,200, 1 plus 0.041, right? Because we're getting 4.1%. It's compounded annually, so we don't have to divide by anything, nothing fancy. And that's raised to the 8th power. Just going to throw that in my calculator. Don't have my calculator attached to us anymore, unfortunately. But I'm going to just plug it in here. So we have 3,200, multiplied by 1.041 raised to the power of 8. And that is 4413, 0.22. So still made, over $1,200 over that 8 years. And that's the real rate. So that's the real value that he'll have, like spending purchasing power after those 8 years. And the way to think about it, I guess, is like if you did it. So if you did the 3,200, I'm trying to think of a way to make this relatable. Not 0.041. We're going to do 0.072. raised to the 8th power. Well, we get 3,200 times 1.072 raised to the 8th. So if you use this number, which is 5,580, because that is the amount of money you will actually have, right? This is the amount of money you will actually have, right? But it's not real, because if you're looking at this number and saying, oh my gosh, think about what I could buy with $5,580, right? What's something that costs about that much money? I don't know. Maybe you could buy a used car for that, or a used boat, something like that, right? You might be looking to start collecting for a down payment on an apartment or a house. But you can't think that way, because this amount of money, even though that's the actual amount of money that you'll have after 8 years, it won't be able to buy as much as you think it will. This is how much your money will be able to buy. So this is like, if you think about this in now dollars, right? Like today dollars. If you think about how much you can buy with this amount of money, that is what you'll be able to buy with this amount of money in 8 years. Because in 8 years, you're losing that 3.1% to inflation. So this is the amount of purchasing power you'll actually have if you think about it in terms of today. So maybe a little bit cheaper car, right? Maybe a little bit cheaper boat, maybe a little bit cheaper apartment. That's the way you need to think about inflation. Hopefully that makes sense. Good luck out there, guys.